Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This time we're going to be talking about Colin Trevorrow's original script for Star Wars Episode 9 titled Duel of the Fates. Now, I know that the sequel trilogy was, for lack of better words, disappointing, atrocious, a testament to everything wrong with Disney Star Wars. But on a lighter note, we do have concept art from the original version of episode 9, and to be honest, I thought this looked really cool when it came out. This has been floating around on the internet for a couple of years now, along with an early version of the script. So we're just going to look at some of the concept art and just talk about, how different this movie would have been and would it have changed anyone's opinions on the sequels as a whole? Well, let's see. First one here, we have Rey. She was going to have a darker outfit. I personally love that they gave her a double bladed lightsaber that felt like a natural progression for her character and her being a staff wielder. The black is kind of a callback to the Return of the Jedi outfit for Luke in the original trilogy. And I love this design for Rey. Would have made her a better character than what we got. And here we have Kylo Ren and his new helmet. So the script kind of explains that the new helmet Kylo Ren would get would be as a result of basically being melded to his face. And that would kind of be his final transformation into him wanting to be like Vader with no going back. Really cool concept. Would have been an interesting direction to take the Kylo Ren character for sure. And this artwork is pretty cool. I do like the helmet design. It almost looks like like the skull of Vader in a way, just more creepy and ghastly. And then adding in the idea of it being actually melted into part of his face just adds a level of terror to the character. Like he is so committed to fulfilling his grandfather's legacy that he's physically altering himself. Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. We know that her passing greatly impacted the plans for her character in episode 9. Really love this outfit with the white. That's a nice callback to her original outfit from A New Hope. Really, this is one of my favorite pieces of art because it really captures that older Leia as a character. And regardless of anybody's feelings of the sequels, I do have a lot of love and respect for that original trio, even though they were mishandled, in my opinion, in those movies. But seeing Leia back and just thinking about what they could have done with her character, and Carrie Fisher being the great sport that she was, and being so happy to be a part of the Star Wars community, makes her passing all the more tragic. But really nice piece here. And here we have BB 8 being disguised as a First Order droid, part of an abandoned plot line that was part of that canceled script. We see the First Order stormtroopers. Not too much going on here. I do like that they give BB 8 something more to do in this script. Honestly, with just being a simple rolling around droid, one of the best characters from the sequel trilogy. But I do like the design of the First Order version of BB 8. I like that instead of it being just a straight up black repaint, there's a little bit of difference with the design and the head sculpt. Definitely a solid disguise. This would have been an interesting plot line to see. And like I said, they didn't give BB 8 a whole lot to do in The Rise of Skywalker, so. This is a very beautiful piece of art. You have Kylo Ren heading to the Sith world of Remnacor, where he is seeking knowledge from an ancient Sith master, Tor Valum. I love the design of like the broken temple, the sun shining through on this very gray, desolate world. I think this definitely served as some inspiration for Exegol that we ended up seeing in the final product. But this particular design with the sun peeking through the clouds would have translated very well to a film. It's a real shame we didn't get to see this storyline in live action. It can't possibly be any worse than the stories we got in the sequels. So at this point, I'm open to anything. And I think Colin Trevorrow had a much better handle on the characters and what Star Wars is. But with that being said, some of the ideas in the Duel of the Fates script were questionable. And I think the Tor Valum thing is very interesting because you have a character that hasn't been referenced or mentioned in any prior material. And don't get me wrong, the concept of this ancient Sith master just out there in the galaxy is very interesting, but the Duel of the Fates script kind of states that this creature trained Palpatine, which contradicts some of the Plagueis information that we have, and I don't really care for that. But it's a Zepho. He's very, very cool design. And like I said, I love the idea of having basically the dark side version of Yoda out there in the galaxy for Kylo to go and try to extract information and training from. But love the design. I think if they change the backstory about him being Palpatine's teacher, then it would make a lot more sense. Here we have Finn in an Imperial labor camp. Finn, one of the most tragically underused characters in all of the sequel trilogy. One of the best parts about Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates script is that he gave Finn things to do. I mean, this dude ends up leading a whole stormtrooper rebellion. He uses his prior experience as a trooper and channels that into his motivation. His motivation is not just running around screaming Ray, which is kind of what his character was devolved into in The Rise of Skywalker, unfortunately. And I really love this because, again, it shows what the First Order is doing. It shows the oppression that they are putting on the galaxy. It's one of the better examples of show, don't tell, and you can see what the First Order is capable of. And speaking of what the First Order is capable of, wow, this scene, had this been in the Star Wars movie, it would have been one of the single coolest, most absolutely shocking scenes in the entire franchise, where the First Order publicly beheads a Resistance pilot with a guillotine, a laser guillotine, mind you. This would have been so cool to see. And you have Phasma kind of running the show here as the executioner. Would have made her character a lot better. Would have again really shown the threat of the First Order. You know, they're not just these goofy comic book bad guys. These are legitimate threats, and they are actually taking people out. And I know this is probably far too dark to have ever made it into the film, but man, this would have been really cool. And here we have the Battle of Coruscant. Coruscant would have been a central part of this film if it got made. I really love the idea of this not smaller scale battle, but a more ground level assault with the troopers and the resistance, members of the galaxy that are just rising up to fight the tyranny. And then Finn with his arc of leading a rebellion of First Order troopers because he's able to relate to them and rally them to fight against the oppression and a greater cause. This battle would have been really cool, a lot less dramatic and theatrical than the space battle that we ended up getting in the final film, but I think this would have played a lot better and really grounded the story, so to speak. Here we have Rey approaching Kylo Ren in the Jedi Temple on Mortis, which would have been the final dual place of these two characters at the end of their separate journeys. I really love this because Duel of the Fates did something better than the film, in which it built up this path for Kylo Ren and Rey. They're both opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Rey, who is learning everything she can about the Jedi. You have Kylo, who is seeking further into the dark side. He is now the supreme leader. There is no redemption in this story. Although characters try to redeem him, it ultimately culminates in this ultimate fight between these two characters that have been on these separate journeys. And one of my favorite parts of the script, from what I've read, is everything leading up to this fight. And here we have another fight. I particularly love this artwork because there's just something stylized about it that it reminds me a lot of the artwork that came from the old expanded universe with the colors and the outfits. Rey with the double bladed blue lightsaber, which is an excellent touch. Having them have an actual, like, really dramatic duel at the end of the film is something that was a bit of a misstep. You know, they wanted to redeem Kylo in the films, so they brought in Palpatine to be this big villain instead of expanding on Kylo as the ultimate villain. And I think it is important in Star Wars to teach that redemption isn't always an option. You know, sometimes you have characters that really stay on the evil path, and you can do everything you can to try and save them. But when you can't, you have to step up and you have to stop them. Another really, really nice piece of art here. This is when the First Order is losing the Battle of Coruscant. Everything is literally crumbling down around him. And General Hux, a First Order loyalist to the very end, actually takes a lightsaber and kills himself in his own shame and failure after losing this battle. I can't think of a better ending for the character of Hux. I absolutely despised the "I'm the spy" storyline that we got for 5 minutes in the Rise of Skywalker. This was a much better end for his character. He is someone that, even going back to his father, is absolutely a loyalist to this dictatorship, and it makes sense to me that he would rather take his own life than see this massive empire fall. I love that scene. We have Chewie being an absolute badass, taking out the Knights of Ren, throwing them over the side of ledges. The Knights of Ren, another wasted opportunity. I'm going to say that word 50,000 times when talking about the sequels, but wasted opportunity. In this storyline, they at least get a little more to do, and it's cool to see some of the main characters interact with them in a way that is actually cool and not a gimmick or just have them taken out in one hit. Chewie is a good adversary for them. He matches up well. Would have been a really cool fight to see, and just to see them in action more than what we got in the film would be cool. Like I said, you can't get enough badass Chewie moments in Star Wars. One of the cool plot lines of Kylo Ren and his journey to Remnicor in this story was that he could learn how to drain the life force from living objects. As you see in this picture, he is drawing living force from the tree, killing the tree, absorbing its power. This is one of those force powers that if they introduced it in this film, it would make a lot of sense. Kylo Ren's entire character is kind of a leech. He's leeching off the legacy of Vader and taking advantage of the opportunities of those around him. So this is a very suitable force power for him. And it adds a dynamic of his character growing and developing and reaching a level of power that brings a unique twist to Star Wars. So would have loved to have seen that. And here we have Rey lifting the Millennium Falcon from the water. This was obviously meant to be a callback to Yoda raising the X Wing from the swamp in Empire Strikes Back, with the parallel of Rey raising the Falcon. Although I like what they did with having the Force Ghost of Luke kind of raise the X Wing from the waters of Ahch-To. I thought that was a good callback. The Luke stuff they put in The Rise of Skywalker was pretty good. It's just a shame they ruined his character before that. So I don't know if I would have wanted to see this as much as seeing Luke raise the X Wing, but still a really cool scene. If they show how Rey earns that power in the Force and she's not just able to do it on her first attempt with no failure, no adversity, then it could work. Otherwise, contributes to the downfall of the Rey character. And here we have the heroes. You've got Finn, Poe, Rey, badass outfits, again with the double bladed lightsaber. Really cool. I think the character designs in the Duel of the Fates artwork is kind of much better than what we got in the final film, where they're all kind of slight variations of what they were in the previous films. But overall, when it comes to Duel of the Fates, it would not have saved the sequels. I think The Last Jedi and the missteps they took with the character of Luke Skywalker and not having the big three, Luke, Han, and Leia, reunite on screen, I think that really damaged the sequel trilogy, like beyond repair. While this movie may have been cool and definitely a lot better than somehow Palpatine returned, it still wouldn't have fixed the sequel trilogy as a whole. But at least it would have been fun to look at. The final image here is of Rey at the new Jedi temple established at the end of the film. I think that would have been a good step instead of having her kind of rip off Luke's Tatooine scene and having her look into the sunset. Show what she's doing with what she's learned from Luke and her battles with Kylo, and kind of setting the stage for the next generation of Star Wars. Wouldn't have minded if the film ended like that, but overall, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about this artwork. Let me know what you think about Colin Trevorrow's original Episode 9 script before he was fired. And leave a comment below with your thoughts. And that's going to be it for this video. I appreciate you watching. May the Force be with you. Now let's blow up that like button and go home.